Hello, my dear students. Welcome to Bosco Campus Vision as you are going to start your last semester, that is semester 6. Almost 90% of your graduation studies is completed here and going to start your last semester. In this semester, you have to study 5 papers, and along with these 5 papers, you have to do one project also. And I'm going to take a paper titled World Classics in this last semester. Once again, I repeat, I'm going to take a paper titled World Classics. It's one of the main papers in English language and literature. From the title itself, we can understand that what we are going to study. Yes, we are going to be familiar with the classics or study of ancient languages, literature, philosophy, classical writers, history, etc. Yes, from the title itself, classics, classical literature. And we are going to be familiar with the writers like Homer, great writers like Homer, Virgil, Aristophanes, Euripides, Kalidasa. Yes, we are going to be familiar with such classical writers and classical literature. That is a study of ancient languages, literature, philosophy, classical writers, history, etc. First of all, let us discuss the syllabus of this paper. Yes, that is, we have 4 modules. We have to study 4 modules in this particular paper. And in the first module, we have to study, yes, classics. What do you mean by classics? Its definition, characteristics, and some critical concepts regarding this term, classics. Then, Greek literature and Roman literature. What do you mean by Greek literature? What do you mean by Roman literature? And some of the important writers in this stream, that is Greek and Roman, that is Homer, Virgil, Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, Aristophanes, Nikos Kazantzakis. So in Greek and Roman literature, we have to study these writers also. That is Homer, Virgil, Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, Aristophanes, Nikos Kazantzakis. That is, we have to study a short description regarding all these famous writers, classical writers. Next is Italian literature. Yes, we should study what you mean by Italian literature and some of the important writers in this stream. That is Dante, Boccaccio, Tasso, Aristo, Machiavelli, Alberto Moravia, etc. Then next one is Sanskrit literature. Yes, Vyasa, Valmiki, Shudraga, Bhasa, Sriharsha, Jayadeva, Kalidasa. Yes, next stream is Sanskrit literature, and I think all of you are familiar with some writers like Kalidasa. You are very familiar with the Kalidasa, his Abhijnana Shauntalam, Ritu Samhara, Mekadut, Mekasanisham, etc. Then Vyasa Maharshi, that is Vyasa. Then Valmiki, another writer. Then Shudraga, Sriharsha, yes. So from all these writers and the stream, we can understand that what we are going to study, that classical literature, classics. Next one is German literature. What do you mean by this German literature and some of the important writers like Goethe, Hesse, etc. Then last one is Russian literature. And in that particular stream, we have to study Pushkin, Gogol, Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, Chekhov, Gorky, Pasternak, and Solzhenitsyn. So these are the main writers that we have to discuss in the first module. That is, first of all, classics, its definition, characteristics, critical concepts, then all these mainstream, that is Greek, Roman, Italian, Sanskrit, German, and Russian literature and their important writers. I think all of you are familiar with the module first. Then second one is module 2, that is poetry section. In the second module, we have to study one poem, that is Ritu Samhara. It's a very lengthy poem, and we have to study only one canto here. That is the canto 1 of Ritu Samhara. This Ritu Samhara, basically it is divided on, or it consists of 6 cantos. The Samhara, that particular poem, it is a very lengthy poem, and it consists of 6 cantos, but we have to study only canto 1. And this particular poem was written by Kalidasa. That is the second module. Then module 3 is drama. In that particular module, we have to study one drama that is very famous and ancient one, that is Antigone. Antigone by Sophocles. And the last module is module 4, fiction. So in the last module, we have to study two fiction, that is The Death of Ivan Illich by Leo Tolstoy, and the second one is Zorba the Greek by Nikos Kazantzakis. This is the last module. So these are the 4 modules we have to discuss in this particular paper, World Classics. I think all of you are familiar with the our paper, that is World Classics, and that is all of you are familiar with the syllabus also, I think. That is module 1, module 2, 3 and 4. Yes. Let us discuss the meaning of the word classics. What do you mean by, what is the meaning of this term, or what do you mean by the term classics? We are going to study word classics, and what do you mean by this term classics? How can we define this term classics? Classics or classical studies is the study of classical antiquity. Classical antiquity, antiquity means traditional languages, culture, etc. So classics or classical studies is the study of classical antiquity, and it encompasses the study of ancient languages. Yes, it includes the study of ancient languages, literature, philosophy, history and archaeology. The word classics is derived from the Latin adjective classicus. Yes, the word classics is derived from the Latin adjective classicus, meaning belonging to the highest class of citizens. That is the basic meaning of that term. The word classics is derived from Latin adjective classicus, which means belonging to the highest class of citizens. The word was originally used to describe the members of the highest class in ancient Rome. That is, in the traditional period, this particular word was originally used to describe the members of the highest class in ancient Rome. By the 2nd century AD, the word was used in literary criticism to describe writers of the highest quality. That means classics, the term is always associated with a higher level or highest quality or high class, etc. So later, that means by the 2nd century AD, the word was used in literary criticism to describe writers of the highest quality. By the 6th century AD, the word had acquired a second meaning, referring to pupils at a school. Yes, after some time, that is by the end of 6th century AD, the word had acquired a second meaning, referring to pupils at a school. Thus, the two modern meanings of the word, referring both to literature considered to be of the highest quality and to the standard text used as part of a curriculum. That is, that's the two modern meaning of this particular word classics, referring both to literature considered to be of the highest quality, that is the literature of the highest quality, and to the standard text used as part of a curriculum. And both the two meanings are derived from Roman use. This is the two modern meanings of the word, that is the literature of the highest quality and to the standard text used as part of the curriculum. This is the two modern meaning that this particular word occurred. A classic is an outstanding example of a particular style, something of lasting worth or with timeless quality. That is actually the basic meaning of the term classics or classical. That's something of lasting worth or with timeless quality. That means something that transcends the ages, or something that lasts forever without any damage or destroy or something like that. So something of lasting worth or with a timeless quality. In the Middle Ages, classics and education were tightly intertwined. Yes, during the Middle Ages, that particular period, this classics and education were tightly intertwined. There is a spelling mistake here. T is missing here. Intertwined. Medieval education taught students to imitate earlier classical models, and Latin continued to be the language of scholarship and culture despite the increasing difference between literary Latin and the vernacular languages of Europe during the period. Yes, medieval education, they taught students to imitate earlier classical models because they considered this earlier one as the standard one. That's why they taught their students to imitate that earlier classical models, and Latin continued to be the language of scholarship and culture. Despite the increasing difference between literary Latin and the vernacular languages of Europe during the period. According to T.S. Eliot, the word classic has been used merely to mean a standard author. According to T.S. Eliot, the word classic has been used merely to mean a standard author. T.S. Eliot defined this particular word classic to mean a standard author. It has been used for either Greek and Latin literatures into or the greatest authors of the language, and can be used as an antithesis to the term romantic. Yes, it has been used for either Greek or Latin literatures, or or represent the greatest authors of that language, and sometimes it can be used as an antithesis, that is opposite, like antithesis to the term romantic. As a result of the classical romantic controversy, the word classic sometimes implies highest praise and at other times the greatest abuse. That is, the term romantic, you are all are familiar with the romantic age. What are the general characteristic features of romanticism, romantic age, etc. So as a result of the classical romantic controversy, the word classic sometimes implies, sometimes it occurs highest praise and at other times the greatest abuse. That is, when we consider the history of English literature, what are the characteristic features of neoclassical age and how it is different from romantic age. That this in neoclassical age, the writers gave much importance to rules, rigid rules, etc. But at the same time, romantic age writers gave much importance to emotions, feelings, imaginations, etc. And this romantic, they did not follow such a rigid rules or correctness or something like that, like neoclassical writers. So here, T.S. Eliot, he considered this term as to mean a standard author, or the, and sometimes it has been used for this Greek or Latin literature. And as a result of the classical romantic controversy, sometimes the word implies highest praise, and at other times the greatest abuse. It implies certain merits or certain faults. Then, the outstanding quality of a classic is maturity. Then, why it is called a classic one? Because the outstanding quality of a classic, the word classic, when we consider this as a classic one, that means it is a matured one. So the outstanding quality of a classic is its maturity. A classic can only occur when a civilization is mature. How can it be possible? A classic can only occur. It can only occur when a civilization or culture, when a civilization is mature. That is one of the important characteristics of this term. That is, outstanding quality of a classic is its maturity. When a language and literature are mature, yes, a classic can only occur when a civilization is mature, when a language and literature are mature, and it must be the work of a mature mind. That production, that literary production must be the work of a mature mind or a mature writer. The maturity of literature is the reflection of that society in which it is produced. We all know that literature or writings, it is the reflection of that society as well as life, culture, that age, that background, everything. So the maturity of literature is the reflection of that society in which it is produced. A mature literature has a history behind it, not merely a chronicle. Yes, a mature literature has a definite history behind it. It is not merely a story or something, or chronicle or something like that. Classicism implies maturity, and maturity means the process of proper selection and elimination. That means the elimination of unwanted things and the expression of proper or the important or the wanted things. Classism implies maturity, and a maturity means that process of selection and elimination. A perfect classic must have comprehensiveness. Yes, a perfect classic should have that comprehensiveness. It should contain all the, yes, it should cover all the important things. The classics within its normal limitations express the maximum possible of the whole range of feelings which represents the character of the people who speak the language, etc. Yes, the classics within its normal limitations express the maximum possible of the whole range of feelings which represents the character of the people who speak the language. And classic must have universality. Yes, another feature, that is classic must have universality. When the classic have value in a number of foreign languages. So this is the basic idea regarding this term classics. I think all of you are familiar with this term as well as this particular paper, that what we are going to study in detail in the coming videos. Dear students, there is a homework for you, and the homework is write a critical note on the term classics, or what you mean by the term classics and its characteristics. And also please note down the syllabus also. This is the syllabus of this particular paper, and please note down the syllabus and The homework is write a note on, or write what you mean by this classics and its characteristic features. Write your homework and send back to me. Thank you. Have a nice day. See you again. Happy learning, and also best wishes for your new semester. Thank you.